You read the title, you saw the thumbnail. Let's get right into it, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we are going to talk about some really fun resampling stuff that touches on a few other aspects of the Elektron workflow today. I was trying to emulate a little thing that I do in my Ableton sampler workflow and techniques where I cram a bunch of different samples onto one file and then I kind of randomize it. And through the process of figuring this out on the Digitakt, I realized that it touches on a bunch of really interesting techniques and aspects of this device that I don't see talked about a lot. So I figured, hey, let's dive right in, let's take a look, let's play around. So we're going to skip ahead to the end here and I'll show you what we're getting to, and then we will jump back and we'll show you how to get there. So at the end of this video, we're going to have a fun multi-sample file that's going to be perfectly sliced up, and we're going to be able to do fun stuff like that and randomize a snare for every press of a trigger, right? This is pretty cool. It's pretty fun. And the other thing it does is it makes it so that your sample slot list does not look like this, just filled with samples that are all snares, right? You can have it all on one nice convenient little sample file, and then what we can also do is save that as a sound so that we can always access it quickly and efficiently and pull it up whenever we want. And yeah, so let's get right on into it. All right, so if we start from the top here, I've loaded a ton of Vengeance sample snares into the sample pool, and what we are going to want to do is figure out a way to perfectly record a ton of samples into one file. Now this is super possible since the 1.5 update and the ability to record exact number of steps, and also we've had this for a while, but we can record internally from any track that we so choose. So let's set this up and let's get rocking here. First thing that we're going to want to do is make sure that we're on one shot for our sample machine in this instance, and we are going to want to turn the LFO trigger off. So that means that when we hit these samples with the Trickz here, they are not engaging the LFO. The next thing we're going to do that just rolls right in is we're going to want to lay down 32 Trickz because we want 32 slices. So once we've done that, we're going to want to go back to the first page and enable the LFO on the first one. Now, if you're familiar with a bunch of Digitakt hacks, you might recognize this setup as the first part of the old time stretching setup, and that's because this is very similar of a technique there. So a little bit of house cleaning real fast. One thing that we do want to do is make sure that our BPM is set relatively low so that we give each trig a moment to breathe. I find that this is a little bit better than doing, scaling it down to half speed or anything like that, because we're gonna do some LFO wiggy stuff here pretty quick. So the Elektron LFO is both incredibly precise, super powerful, and a little obtuse, if I do say so myself. The speed and multiplier values, as well as the phasing of the waves, can be a little bit tricky to wrap your head around. Luckily, amazing strides since this device was first released. We can now, obviously show the polarity of the LFO, and that's very helpful. But I'm just going to go over some of these settings and touch a little bit on some key aspects of the LFO that hopefully, if you're not interested in doing this trick, will help you, figure out some other tricks or, help you along your journey here. So we've set the speed of the LFO to 32. Now, roughly the Digitakt's LFO translates to, in my experience, really nice values, as in like a bar, 8 steps, 32 steps, so on and so forth, at integers of, 8, 16, 32, 48. Those are going to be really nice values for hitting LFO points that are going to reach either the apex or the zero crossing point at the end of the bar or halfway through, so on and so forth. You can play around with it a little bit more to see what I mean, or I could show you, I guess. So we've got a ramp wave right here, and if I was to set this to 48 and we fire this off, now remember that we've got the trig for the LFO firing only on the first one, and we've got our LFO mode as 1 is what we want it to be on, because we want it to trigger once and then end. And we've got our wave as the rising ramp wave, and we've got our depth set to 32 because I wanted to scrub 32 samples up in the modulation destination, which is the sample slot, right? So it's going to shoot this value all the way up to 41 here, and then it's going to shoot all the way back down once it reaches 41 back to 9, which is where we've begun here, right? So if I've got this set to 48, you can see that on the very last set of 8 steps, it just continued to play that original first sample. If I shoot it up to 63.99, because it won't let us go to all the way to 64, you'll notice that that exact same behavior is going to happen again, but this time it's going to reach that point at the beginning of the second bar here, right? So let's take a look. And so what it's doing there, what that means is that the ramp wave is moving a little too fast. It's skipping some of the samples in our thing here. So we're going to set this down to 32, which is just perfect for our purposes here, right? So now we've got 32 unique samples on every single trick. But that doesn't really, help us a ton because it's a nonsense pattern. It's just a bunch of snares. So now let's get into the resampling, okay? So resampling has been possible on the Digitakt for quite some time, but with the 1.5 update, it's incredibly just much more powerful because you can get these exact loops in there. And so you're not worried about trimming things down or, very quickly hitting, arm and record, blah, blah, blah. And where this is incredibly powerful is when you apply it to resampling something like this and then slicing it later, because you can get perfect, quick, fast slices. So let's take a look at this resample setup here. I've got 32 steps because we got 32 snares, 32 steps. That's exactly what we want. I've set my threshold to 1. So basically the instant that any type of sound happens, the Digitakt is going to start recording. And I've set my source to track 1 because that's where I've done all this. But as you can see, you can get all sorts of different sources here. USB left, USB right, track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. All right, so let's arm the recorder here, and as soon as we press play, it's going to start recording, right? Okay, and then we can hit stop. And there is our beautiful 32 wonderful snares. We're going to save this. We're going to preview it. And then we're going to save it. And let's call this snares. Let's call it snares because I believe there's already one. Bam. So now we're going to save that, and then we're going to put it on track 8 here, just because I like to be nice and organized. So now, if we go to track 8 there, we can see it's a beautiful collection of snares all on one neat little audio file here. And if we go and we hit slice and we turn this to 32, then hot diggity daffodil, we can see that we are selecting which snare we want to be listening to, right? So that is incredibly awesome and very super nifty, but I kind of want what was going on here, which was my interesting little, every time I triggered something, it was a brand new snare, okay? So let's take a look at the LFO page for this one here. So you can see that I have done something a little similar here. I've set the speed is at a weird value. It doesn't really need to be at a weird value, but I guess, you know, the value here actually doesn't really matter at all. What really matters is our destination, which is the sample slice, and the wave, which is random, and then the trig mode, which is going to be hold, right? So we want this to update every time that we hit a new value there, right? You see? The depth is also going to be incredibly important here. So we're going to set it to 16 because the LFO is bipolar, right? So that is going to be very important to keep in the back of your head. So we set it to 16 and then we set the default sample slice also to 16 because it's going to be able to go up and down, right? So let's reset this up on this one here, just, you know, to reiterate a few of these things. I like to start on sample slot 2 because then if I save this as a sound, which we're going to do, and I want to revisit it later, I like to be able to just load it up and then know that LFO1 is free for me to do whatever kind of weird whiz-biz I want to do with it later. So we're gonna go to LFO2 and we're gonna set, we'll set the multiplier down here to 2. We'll go to a random wave. We'll change this to hold. And then we will click the encoder to get whole steps there. And we'll go to 16. And then we'll set this to slice select here, right? So now, sounds pretty good. But we do want to change this slice to 16 so it gets the full range. Cool, excellent, beautiful, and wonderful. So now we've done all this work. We've got this nice, wonderful multi-sample file, and it's great and it's awesome. But at the moment, it lives on this pattern in this project, and you know, that's nifty, it's cool, it's fun, but I've done all this work and I want to be able to save this. I want to be able to grab this sound, this file, this collection of settings just the way it is, and I want to be able to nab it at a moment's notice here, right? So what we want to do is save it as a sound here, right? So let's go hit function and then this guy with the import export button, and we're gonna say export sound. Now, because we're selected on this track, it's gonna be like, you wanna do that sound, right? And then let's maybe put it on bank B for bitchin' snares, and then we'll select B3 here, right? And then we will call this S. And snare, I know how to spell snares. with 2 Z's, right? And then we'll say yes, and then we will say that this is a snare, and we'll also say that it is a mine. And then we'll save it here, right? So now that we've done that, we could go to a different pattern here, and we could say hold function and look at the sound browser, and you'd see that snares is right there. We can hit yes. And there it is. It's good to go. It's ready for us, right? So this is pretty awesome. It's quite excellent. I love having a ton of snares all on one file. And let's take a look here. Let's open up a new project. Let's just create a brand new project here. Bada bing, bada boom. And then let's just do that again, just because I really think that it's worth showing how very nice this is. So now we've got snares, brand new project. And then we can take a look here, and instead of a billion gajillion snare samples, we've just got this one cute little file, and it's got 32 snares on it, right? So that's the video. That is it, all in one adorable little file. We've got it saved as preset. We can use it anytime we want. We played around with the LFO here. What are we gonna do with this, first LFO? Sample rate reduction. That's a good one right there. I like that one. Kind of gives it a little bit of a video gamey like. All right, and that's my introduction to resampling, having a multi-sample slice file saved as a preset. And yeah, let's just review really fast. We set that bad boy up, we recorded it, we saved it, played with the LFO, and that's the video, folks. In the future, I'm going to talk more about the Digitakt. I'm going to talk about the Syntakt. I got a couple of little secret heaters in the works for you too here. But if you like these kinds of videos where we take a look at techniques and workflow and little hacks, and we get into actual lessons about how these things can help you be better with your gear, then hit the subscribe button or leave a comment. Those types of things really help out the channel. And if you're super duper into this stuff, you could hit some of those affiliate links down below. I get a little slice of the pie when you do that. And that's about all I got for you. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you later.